The police have apprehended Radek, a well-known criminal, and placed him under arrest. Meanwhile, the CEO of VALA Corp, Mr. Irola, has developed a highly effective vaccine that he plans to distribute to the public. However, protesters are taking to the streets, claiming that the drug is harmful to innocent children in Africa, where it will be sent. An investigative reporter named Nina tries to get to the bottom of the issue by questioning Mr. Irola about the alleged side effects of the drug. He dismisses her claims, attributing them to the city's politics. However, in his car, he expresses frustration with Nina and wishes she would stop meddling in his business. Ramo's day starts off with a heartwarming surprise from his wife and daughter. They gift him a new bike jacket and breakfast in bed, which he gratefully accepts before showering his family with kisses and playful attention. On the other side of town, Kurika, a subordinate of the notorious Rotika, is in deep trouble. He has lost $2 million and is being interrogated underground. Rotika's sidekick, Lataja, beats Kurika to a pulp, and when he still refuses to give up the money's whereabouts, Rotika himself shoots him in the leg. Before leaving the building, Rotika orders his men to deal with Kurika. Meanwhile, in a factory, a group of thugs is busy packing VALA vaccines, and Rotika calls to check on their progress. However, things take an unexpected turn when a masked vigilante and his sidekick, Marla, attack the thugs. The vigilante, known as Rendel, leaves his initials on the thugs, striking fear into their hearts. Rendel's mission takes a turn when he frees a prostitute named Huora, who bumps into Rotika and Lataja outside the factory. Upon arriving at the crime scene, the pair is shocked to discover that 6 men have been hung with Rendel's signature initials engraved on their backs. In a tragic mistake, Rendel accidentally shoots the innocent pizza delivery man who was just doing his job. Meanwhile, Kurika is recuperating in the hospital, and Rendel pays him a visit, deliberately saving his life by abducting him. In a flashback, Kurika is seen discussing a plan to invest in VALA Corp's new drug with Ramo, the financial director at a bank. Ramo declines to invest, and Kurika is fired from his job after calling Mr. Irola. Ramo is bewildered by his dismissal despite making the right decision, but his boss assures him he will find new employment. Ramo is unsuccessful in his job search, and he returns home to inform his wife of the negative news before reading a bedtime story to his daughter. At the hospital, Rotika and Lataja search for Kurika, but he has already been moved. In frustration, Rotika threatens a nurse and shoots at an empty hospital bed. Meanwhile, Rendel crosses off Kurika's picture from his list of targets, with his sidekick Marla grinning in approval. A prostitute named Huora tells a reporter, Nina, about how Rendel saved her from being gang-raped at a factory, and shares information about a shipment from a VALA cargo hold. Nina pays her off and considers the information. In another scene, Mr. Irola is talking to a mysterious person via video call while swimming, and Rotika interrupts to inform him about Rendel's interference in their operation. It's then revealed that Mr. Irola is Rotika's father, and he scolds his son for being unreliable. As tensions mount, Pekka storms out in a huff, leaving Marsalka and Irola to hatch a new plan. On a secluded beach, Rendel arrives just in time to mete out justice to Consignment 221, taking down the thugs and setting the van ablaze. Meanwhile, Nina secretly observes and captures photos of the masked vigilante in action. Rotika arrives on the scene, fuming with anger and seeking to take down Rendel once and for all. Meanwhile, Ramo drowns his sorrows at a local bar, only to be approached by Kurika with an enticing job offer. The following day, Ramo begins a new job at VALA Corp, where he receives an introductory lesson from Lataja. But Kurika has other plans, leading Ramo to a storeroom filled with important documents. He's tasked with saving the receipts and bonds, but shredding everything else. What secrets do these files hold, and how will they impact the ongoing power struggle between Rendel and his enemies? He starts the difficult task and eventually becomes exhausted. While going through the files, he comes across one about Consignment 221 and begins to read it. Unbeknownst to him, Mr. Irola, the boss, is observing him through a camera. He takes the file home with him. Meanwhile, Nina is attempting to connect the dots between VALA Corp and Rendel, who is out exploring the city with Marla. Rendel launches an attack on the third consignment van location, taking out the guards and finding a camera loaded with footage of Rotika watching from the other end. It's a trap, and he's surrounded. He escapes to a warehouse, where he fights off the thugs one by one. However, 2 of the guards reveal information about Rotika's whereabouts, having mistakenly taken Kurika to the hospital instead of killing him. Rendel ties them up but chooses not to kill them. Upon noticing the camera, he signals Rotika before departing. Rotika returned to the warehouse and killed the 2 foolish individuals. He then went to his father and informed him of the negative development. Mr. Irola decided to seek external assistance to halt Rendel's activities. He summoned Rodek and the prison warden, who simply acknowledged the order. Rodek contacted his team members from various countries, including Mike from Austria, Julia from Cuba, Jimmy from Russia, and Stacy from America. On the other hand, Ramo was examining the VALA files at his house and was shocked by the images. His daughter interrupted him, and he put her to sleep by reading her a bedtime story. Rodek and his team arrived, and Rotika acted like he was drunk to entice Rendel to come to the location. Despite Marla's warning that it was another trap, Rendel ignored her and followed Rotika. Upon arriving at the factory, Julia attacks him immediately. However, he successfully defends himself and defeats each member of Rodek's gang, although Rodek survives. Unfortunately, Rendel is gravely injured and barely clinging to life when he leaves the scene. Meanwhile, Rotika and Lataja launch a raid on Roma's home and take his family members hostage. In order to save them, Roma quickly hands over the files he was holding. As punishment for breaking their agreement, Rotika murders Roma's wife and daughter while Lataja brutally assaults Roma's face with a spiked bat. Despite his injuries, Roma survives and adopts the name Rendel from the files he finds scattered on the floor. Driven by the memory of his family, Rendel is inspired to continue his fight as a vigilante hero. After treating his injuries, Rendel prepares for a final confrontation with Pekka Irola, also known as Rotika, and his gang in his hideout. Meanwhile, Pekka reports the demise of Rodek's gang to his father, who is in a meeting with an angry stranger. Mr. Irola beats his son for the failure and is nearly shot by Pekka, but he lacks the courage to do so and instead leaves wounded. Rotika gathers all of his men at the factory to face off against Rendel. In the meantime, Rendel visits Kurika, who provides him with evidence against VALA Corp and $2 million. However, Rendel refuses the money and instead asks Kurika to leave town and never return. After parting ways, Rendel heads to the factory. At the factory, Rotika's entire gang awaits Rendel, and they capture Nina, who was taking pictures of them. Lataja brings her to Rotika, who plans to torture her by drilling her eyes while she is chained to the front of a lift truck. As Rendel begins his attack, the gang forgets about Nina and rushes to confront him. However, he takes them out one by one. During the fight, he faces Rodek, who wants revenge for his fallen crew. Rodek throws him a small pickaxe, which Rendel uses to free Nina and then triggers a jack that crushes Rotika's car on top of him, killing him before he can fight his nemesis. Next, Rendel faces the powerful Lataja and struggles to defeat him. When he is almost killed, Marla sacrifices herself for him. Later, Rendel realizes that Marla was only a creation of his imagination but gets another chance to fight Lataja. He deals him a fatal blow by hitting him with his spiked bat on the head, and Rotika, shocked by the turn of events, runs away to his father. After failing to track down Rotika due to his stab wound, Nina, the journalist, rushes to help Rendel and tend to his wounds. Meanwhile, Rotika carries out the mysterious man's orders and shoots his own father dead. When he exits the building, he encounters a battered Rendel who had followed him. The two engage in a brutal fight under the pouring rain, but Rendel gains the upper hand by breaking Rotika's hands with the car's boot door. In the end, Rendel kills Rotika by stabbing him with the deadly VALA Corp vaccines he had been distributing. As he departs, he shares a glance with Nina, who had been trailing him in case he needed help. The movie concludes with Rendel atop the city's tallest building, announcing his crusade against all the evildoers in his city. The movie ends here. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll return with another captivating movie recap. Until then, stay safe and take care.